Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Let's Talk About podcast. I'm Neil Orange Peel, and I'm your host for today. And today's topic is the Ken and Barbie KIllers, aka Bernardo and Karla Homolka. Two sick, twisted fuckers, and we're going to get into it. And straight away, there's going to be listener discretion because there's going to be topics here of drugging people, sexual assault, violence, and a lot of things that's not nice to hear. Rape, stalking, peeping Tom. It's going to be a lot of things. So just listener discretion. It's going to be a heavy one. So just get yourself ready and tuck yourself in and let's get into this one, shall we? I'm not even going to bother with all the housekeeping. This is going to be a long one today. So my sources for today are the Discovery Plus 4-part documentary, The Ken and Barbie KIllers, The Lost Tapes. Me and the Looking Shijay, we watched that the weekend. And then I've got another one which we watched, which was called The Disturbing Case of the Ken and Barbie KIllers, Born to Kill, Our Life. And that's on YouTube by a channel called True Lives. And if you type this into Spotify for some podcasts, there is hundreds. There is absolute ridiculous amount of podcasts that talk about this topic. The ones I listened to before and ones that I'm familiar with. So it's the Bro Hio podcast, Lights Out podcast, Ike Murder podcast, and the Crime Conspiracy Cults and Murder. There was another one listening to True Crime Besties was another one as well. So yeah, just type it into Spotify and just there is literally loads. Red Handed did it as well. I listened to a Red Handed one. There's quite a lot on there, to be honest, but a lot of them say the same thing, to be honest, because it really is a bit of because obviously this was in the 90s, so there's a lot of stuff that is repeated a lot. So there isn't really much like new in them. It's just the way the story's told. But we didn't get into it anyway. So as I said, today we've been talking about a dark, twisted, fucked up deep dive into one of the most horrific chapters in Canadian history. The crimes and murders of Bernardo and Karla Homolka. Excuse me. I even heard a podcast that likened these two pieces of shit as a modern day version of even bigger pieces of shit. In fact, the two pieces of shit that I'm talking about in the top pile of pieces of shit, Moira Hindley and Ian Brady, and Fred and Rose West. That's what some people have actually likened these two bastards come to. So this tells you how far this story is going to get a little bit crazy. So it was the early 1990s. MC Hammer and Boyz II Men were topping the charts while Nirvana were starting the grunge scene. Goodfellas and Silence of the Lambs were at the cinema, and we saw Homer, Bart, and the Simpson family for the very first time. Now, for anyone who saw a picture of Paul and Karla, you would see them as the perfect dream couple, like a young couple who you would see on Beverly Hills 90210 or Saved by the Bell. Young, flash, wealthy, attractive. Well, for the time, it was the late 80s, early 90s, so, you know, a lot of hairspray, a lot of peroxide going around on boys and men, a lot of dodgy perms. So the media would later call them the Ken and Barbie KIllers because behind that manicured, false bullshit facade, everyone saw there was a dark, narcissistic partnership responsible for serial, sadistic sexual violence, torture and murder. So I've got a picture of these two pieces of shit, and here we go. This is Bernardo and Karla Homolka, whichever you buy. I'm just going to call her Karla, it's easier. So as you can see, there's a lot of peroxide blonde going on, and he's blonde-haired, blue-eyed, good-looking boy. So them look like someone from Beverly Hills 90210. But like, as I say, I said this before, a lot of serial killers, it's the eyes. The eyes give them away. They really do. Karla's eyes especially, she's just got really deep, dark eyes. And it's like she's lost in them eyes sort of thing. And yeah, no nice couple at all. And another couple I have of them is, this is them on their wedding day. So let's get this done. Okay, it's popping up right now. This is Paul and Karla on their wedding day. So as you can see, both of them are very happy. They've still got those dark lost eyes, Karla has. And Paul has that big smile and his blue eyes and his blonde hair. You know, like I said, people look at some people and think nothing wrong with them. They think just a normal, happy, American couple, but deep down, he was different. So let's get into it, shall we, and find out what happened. So Paul Bernardo was born on August the 27th, 1964. He was the youngest of 3 children to Kenneth and Marilyn Bernardo. Bernardo was born with severe ankylosing, commonly known as tongue-tied. The frenulum tied his tongue tightly to the floor of his mouth. Because of this, he could not articulate speech during his early years until roughly age 5, when he underwent corrective surgery. He communicated before then with high-pitched squeaks, grunts, and animal-like noises. That's not good for a kid. I mean, and that was until he was 5. So, that's not good. Paul grew up in an environment shaped by abuse, sexual perversion, and severe mental illness. His father, Kenneth, turned the family home into a hunting ground for his sexual perversion. He systematically installed peepholes to spy on his daughter Deborah, as well as female house guests and neighbours. Kenneth would frequently masturbate openly in common areas of the house, such as the living room or the kitchen, while watching female family members, and even walk up and begin to grow up any woman in the house. It was so frequent that it had become normal to everyone, and this was all witnessed by a young Paul. Kenneth's perverse nature later escalated when he started subjecting Paul's older sister Deborah to continuous sexual abuse and harassment inside the house. He was also known locally as the local Peeping Tom, where he was caught numerous times masturbating while looking through windows and exposing himself to women and children. He was later arrested and charged with crimes including voyeurism, indecent exposure, and paedophilia-related offences stemming from his decades of unchecked sexual misconduct both inside the home and in his local community. The abuse came so much for Marilyn that she became depressed and ended up becoming agoraphobic to the point where she moved and lived in the family basement. So I've got a photo of Marilyn and a young Paul, and this is what in his sister Deborah. So there's for young Paul. He's probably around teenage years there. There's Mom Marilyn, and there's sister Deborah. So yeah, they all seem very happy and very just normal. That's the thing about this case. Everything just looks normal, but it's far from it. Even with all this going on at home, Paul was known to be a normal young lad, sporty, athletic, and not short of confidence. He even said when he was older he wanted a 6-figure job, his own company, and to drive a flash sports car. At the age of 10, he joined the Scouts, and this is where his first got a love for fire and learning how to tie knots. He later started to have a fascination with fire, and it was stated that when he broke up once with his first girlfriend due to his controlling nature, well, he was controlling on his part. She got pissed off of it and she dumped him for his best mate. She actually went up to Paul and just said, "It's over between us, and yes, I have kissed your best friend." Paul later went home, got everything she had brought him and everything he had brought her, put them in a bin and set them on fire, saying to himself that no woman will ever have the better of him again. This is one of the first red flags and signs of Paul becoming the shit he later become. Another sign was when he was 16. Him and his mom got into a heated argument, and she told him that Kenneth, the pervert, was not his real dad. His real dad was her school sweetheart and love of her life. This sent Paul into a red rage, and he started to spiral out of control. From that day on, he used to call his mom whore and slag, and had zero respect for her, as she would call him a bastard child or a demon child. In 1982, Paul left home for the University of Toronto, Scarborough. He had a very close circle of friends, and they would find picking up girls very easy, due to the good looks and lots of money. Paul would even tell his friends after a drink or 7 that one of his dreams was to own a virgin farm, so he could rape virgins every day. His friends just laughed this off, unknown to them the deep perverse nature and fantasies building inside him. So this is how cocky and arrogant he was. When he was having a drink, he had no problem getting girls. He was very, very popular with the girls. But that was not enough for him. And he actually turned around and told his friends he wanted a virgin farm, so he could rape virgins. That's not normal coming from anybody. Anybody. And his friends just laughed it off. If one of my friends said that, I would be having a little bit of a thing to myself that that's not normal. After everything that happens, his friends in hindsight would later recall how Paul would never just have one girlfriend and would brag how he always had 3 or 4 on the go at one time, and tell them how he used to love kinky sex, especially anal and rough sex. They would also recall he would get a kick from humiliating his girlfriends in front of his friends and their friends. He would tell them about the sexual things he would do to her in the bedroom, or say things like, "Oh, your arse was so tight," or tell her how she was too fat to throw her around the bedroom and that she needed to lose weight. Just basic sheer humiliation and degrading of her as a woman and as a cat person. Some women even placed a restraining order on Paul as they feared what he would do to them after they broke up due to the escalation of violence in the bedroom. Also the threats that he constantly made to them over the phone while this was going on. They even stated that Paul was obsessed with the book American Psycho and would even refer to this as his Bible. You see, Paul was hiding a big secret that no one knew about. Between May 1987 and May 1990, he committed at least 18 confirmed sexual assaults and was suspected of dozens more. Bernardo drove around suburban Scarborough, specifically targeting women, walking alone late at night near bus stops, transit hubs and residential apartment complexes. He rushed victims from behind, threatened them with a knife and blindfolded them immediately to prevent visual identification. He forced victims off the streets into dark ravines, parks or secluded alleys, subjecting them to hours of physical violence, psychological humiliation and sexual assault. The attacks were marked by extreme sadism, where one victim tried to resist Bernardo when one victim tried to resist Bernardo, he intentionally stomped on her arm, breaking it. Bernardo systematically stole identification cards, personal jewellery, photos and locks of pubic hair from victims, keeping them as trophies hidden in his home. He ordered victims to bathe post-attack and wipe down areas he touched, demonstrating early counter forensic awareness. So that's what he was, just so violent with his attacks. Normally when you have these rapes and sexual assaults, it's normally over within a couple of minutes. But Paul Day, he used to turn around. He used to literally go for an hour or 2 hours, and he used to get more and more into it as he was doing it. It was like he was feeding his lust for perversion and sadism. But as for the ladies and the women, God, it must have been horrible what they was going through. Horrible. Toronto police formed a massive task force to catch the attacker, interviewing hundreds of men, including Bernardo, in late 1990. Although police took a DNA sample from Bernardo in 1990, severe administrative delays and laboratory backlogs left his sample untested on the shelf for over 2 years. Why did he volunteer to give a blood sample, you may ask? Well, this is the e-fit that was made of the rapist that was formerly known and later known as the Scarborough rapist. So here is the Scarborough rapist. And here is the that e-fit now put next to a photo of Paul Bernardo. There is a lot of similarities there. A lot of similarities. And at this time, he didn't have brown hair. This time he had blonde hair. So, yeah, if you picture him there with blonde hair, it's very, very, very close. Very, very close. So, once he was in a station, they asked, "Why do you think you brought you in for questioning?" And in his own cocky manner, he replied, "Because I look like that photo, but it's not me." And on his word that it wasn't him, it was never taken further. So that's Paul Bernardo. So if I've got any more photos of him, and I think I've got a younger one. Oh, no, I'll tell you what I've got Paul Bernardo's high school yearbook that they do. They do like a high school yearbook. And there he is. He's got a big, kind of bouffant hair. He's got Paul Bernardo. Stud will remember Laurier, where he's pursued his favourite pastime, meeting females. He plans to become rich and famous so he can go to California and check out the girls on the beach. Paul says the only way to go through life is to go for it. Yep, that's his high school yearbook. And as I said, I don't think I'm the picture come through on the Scarborough rapist, so I'm going to show it again. So the Scarborough rapist and a picture of Paul. There we have it there. So you've got the Scarborough rapist there, and we have Paul there. So yeah, it's very, very accurate. Very, very accurate. If you saw those photos, you would be like, yes, that's that's definitely him. So one other photo I have of Paul here is this one. This is the last one of Paul on his own. And you can tell, as I said before, it's always about the eyes. The eyes are what do it for me. Look at those eyes there. They are absolute crazy eyes. You would think if he come up to you with those eyes and that facial expression like that, that's somebody either off their heads on drugs, or it's like, you need to stay the fuck away before I punch you straight in the face. The photo, this photo is his actual photo when he got caught by the police. So this is when he got caught. I forgot what to call him now. But it's his photo the police took of him anyway. So that's Paul Bernardo. So that's piece of shit number 1. And now we're going to talk about piece of shit number 2. Karla Leanne Homolka, born on May the 4th, 1970 in Mississippi. I'm gonna have to pronounce this word. Mississauga, Ontario. I've completely butchered that name. Sorry about that. She was the eldest daughter of Karl, aka Charles, a Czech immigrant who worked as an automatician technician, and Marilyn Homolka, who worked in banking and administrative roles, and had 2 younger sisters, Tammy and Laurie. This is Karla with her sisters. As you can see, here we go. Here is Karla with her sisters. I think that's a Christmas tree behind them, and there's some pictures there. So the one at the front's Karla, the one on the left is Tammy, and the one behind is Laurie. So Karla is the oldest, Laurie is the next one. I think there's 18 months in between all of them. So you've got Karla, the eldest, Laurie, the next eldest, and Tammy is the youngest. That's the 3 of them there. So a family life growing up seemed a normal, hard-working family, except a dad was caught once having an affair. So after being caught, you think he'd either have the shit kicked out of him by the wife, or have his balls chopped off by the wife, or have all of his clothes and Led Zeppelin vinyl smashed. But nope, not Marilyn. Marilyn decided to invite the mistress over for a night, but it was a one-night only deal. A one-night only deal of a threesome sex, as long as the event after the threesome ended. Charles, being a man, jumped at the idea and had the night of his life that night, and as agreement, he did end the affair after he emptied his balls. Karla was bright, capable, and mainstayed good grades through her time at St. Winston Churchill Secondary School in St. Catharines. Despite her surface charm, friends, teachers and peers noted early signs of narcissism. She possessed a very high IQ and was said to be in the top 2%, and frequently displayed a sense of entitlement, often projecting the attitude that she was inherently superior to those around her. She was actively social, involved in normal teenage activities, and worked part-time at a local veterinary clinic, where she expressed a strong affinity for animals. Except one day when she was at a friend's house, and they were talking about animals, and she decided to grab a friend's hamster, make a makeshift parachute, and threw it out the bedroom window to see if the hamster could fly. It didn't fly, and it crashed to the ground and died 2 weeks later due to its injuries. If you think that's fucked up, a few weeks later, she dug up the hamster that she thought she could fly, and just because she wanted to see how decomposed it was. This is when people started to link Karla's fascination with death. In her early teens, she stopped reading Nancy Drew books and started reading books on the occult and witchcraft, and even told friends she fantasized about killing herself. She started drinking and dabbling in drugs and lost her virginity with a local drug dealer. She bragged to her friends her first time was amazing. His cock was huge and he tied her up, spanked her and whipped her. He loved being very rough and kinky, and they even did anal sex as he did dirty talk to her. The more she spoke of it, the more she was adding on and enjoying talking about it. Yet, when they asked the guy, he said he was stoned out of his head and he was a quick fumble, so Here we have Karla making stuff up and glamorising sex and enjoying it the dark BDSM way and getting a kick out of the dirtier the sex, the better. And this is when she was just a teenager. During her mid to late teens, her sexual interest evolved rapidly, characterised by that early interest in control, dominant submissive dynamics and BDSM. Interest that made her uniquely susceptible and receptive to Paul Bernardo, and the two met in October 1987. Paul and Karla met on the evening of October the 10th, 1987 at a Howard Johnson restaurant lounge in Scarborough, Ontario. A chance encounter that changed the lives of many people in the years to come. Paul was at the hotel having something to eat with friends. Meanwhile, Karla was visiting the Scarborough area with a girlfriend and attended a pet convention due to her job at the vets that day. Both ended up at the hotel for food and a dance. Karla stood out with her dyed blonde hair, face full of makeup, tits on show, and she was dressed to look older than she was. She immediately caught Bernardo's attention. The tits on show, the flesh on show, he went over to her straight away. 23-year-old Bernardo was working as an accountant, and he oozed wealth, confidence and charm. Once he approached Karla, there was immediate chemistry. Some friends later said it was love at first sight. Bernardo was captivated by Karla's blonde, polished appearance, a tight body, and Karla was drawn to Bernardo's handsome looks, confidence and polished facade. Bernardo spent the next hour bragging about his career, his lifestyle, his ambitions, presenting himself as a successful, high-earning young professional. He drove a gold Nissan 300ZX, using his material possessions to project status. After a hour of Paul talking about himself and how great he was, he and Karla ended up going to Karla's hotel room. They walked in, put on... Well, they say what's in the book, but it just says that they went to Karla's hotel and had sex for numerous hours. Personally, I think they walked into the hotel room, put on some White Snakes, Is This Love? And that was when they started getting down and dirty. But after the sex session, phone numbers were exchanged. This established a connection that quickly escalated into one of the most intense relationships and culminated in marriage, serial violence and murder. Very quickly, Paul implemented strict rules on Karla, and he even got Karla to compile a detailed, highly specific self-improvement list. In a personal journal, Bernardo listed an intense obsession with image control and perfectionism, as well as Karla's total compliance in moulding herself to fit his ideal woman. The list included strict rules governing her physical appearance, domestic duties, emotional demeanour, and sexual submission. So, this is what the list stated. She had to maintain a strict target weight, roughly between 110 and 115 pounds. She had to keep her hair dyed blonde, styled neatly, and meticulously groomed at all times. Wear specific clothing styles favoured by Paul, typically tight, feminine, polished outfits, and avoid dressing casually around him. He always wanted to look sexy. Always wear full makeup, manicure her nails regularly, and ensure her skin was clear and soft. She was never ever to argue, raise a voice, or challenge Bernardo in public or private. She was never allowed to display complete deference to his opinions, decisions, and authority. She had to be consistently cheerful, submissive, and attentive to his emotional and physical needs. She had to cease complaining about his demands, criticism, or unpredictable mood swings. She had to keep their living space spotlessly clean, organised, and free of clutter, prepare his meals accordingly to his exact preferences and schedule, and handle routine domestic chores efficiently without relying on him or asking for assistance. She had to be completely sexual compliant and available 24/7 whenever Bernardo demanded it, without hesitation, and to never ever ask questions about what he demanded. She had to express enthusiasm for his sexual fantasies, dynamic power shifts, and BDSM demands. She had to actively assist him in fulfilling his desire for younger, inexperienced partners, a rule that ultimately led directly to her facilitating the drugging and sexual assault of her sister Tammy and other young victims, preferably virgins. At the back of the list, Karla wrote, "Be a perfect girlfriend for Paul. Remember, you're stupid. Remember, you're ugly. Remember, you're fat." I don't know why I tell you these things, because you will never change. Wow, that's a lot to take in. So they haven't been dating long, and suddenly he gave her this big, massive list of, you need to do this for me. Now, everything that is on that list is all based on what Paul needs, what he likes, what his desires are. Nothing at all to do with what Karla is. It's like, these are the rules, you need to abide to them no matter what. What I say goes. Simple as that. So let's have a quick recap about this. Paul is a sexual sadist and rapist obsessed with anal sex, virgins, violence and sheer domination. He's a massive piece of shit. In fact, he's a massive piece of elephant shit and a stinky shit boil. Karla loves sex. The kinkier and rougher the better. She is submissive to Paul and under his control and will do anything for him. She too is a piece of shit and about to become a smelly piece of shit like a twat of a bloke. Fast forward to the summer of 1990. The bastard couple had been together for almost 3 years. Paul had moved in with Karla's family after earning their trust over the 3 years. Karla started to notice Paul and her younger 15-year-old sister Tammy were getting very close. Paul was getting very flirtatious. He knew Tammy had a crush on him, and he took advantage of this at every chance he had, because she had something that she could give him that Karla never could. And that was the fact that she was a virgin. You see, through all of Paul and Karla's relationship, Paul hated the fact that Karla was not a virgin when they met, and he made sure Karla knew how disgusted this made him. However, as Tammy is Karla's younger sister, if he could take Tammy's virginity, he would be the closest to taking Karla's. So Paul started working on convincing Karla to gift her younger sister's virginity to him. Days and weeks went by, and finally Karla agreed to gift Tammy to Paul as a present. I mean, how fucked up is that? I don't really need to explain anything about that. That is seriously fucked up. She started by breaking Tammy's blinds to her bedroom so Paul could perv on her from outside and masturbate. Later, they worked out a plan to take it to the next level. The first attempt to drug and assault Tammy took place in November 1990, roughly a month before her death on Christmas Eve. Spoiler alert. The initial attempt failed due to an improper mix of the dosage of drugs. Karla had brought home halothane, a liquid anaesthetic stolen from the veterinary clinic where she worked, along with some other animal sedatives. The plan was to knock Tammy out completely so Paul could enter the bedroom and deflower her. Oh, disgusting. Oh, disgusting. Karla that night asked Tammy to join them in the basement because Karla and Paul's bedroom was like a basement bedroom, but it wasn't a bedroom. It was like a basement that was like, it was the bedroom, but it was their living space as well. So kind of like Karla and Paul, that was their like bed sit, I suppose. That's where they stayed a lot. They spent most of their time. Tammy jumped to the idea of spending time with Paul and Tammy. Paul and Karla, sorry. Karla spiked Tammy's drink with sedatives, while Tammy and Paul spoke. Once Tammy was passed out, Paul started to strip her. He started to take all her clothes off, touch and rape Tammy, all while Karla watched. But before Paul could penetrate Tammy, she began to wake up with Paul on top of her. Paul jumped off immediately, and him and Karla panicked, while Tammy came round and started throwing up. Karla and Paul got Tammy and took her into the bedroom and placed her in bed. Karla cleaned up the mess, and the next morning, they both convinced the parents that Tammy was simply suffering from a stomach bug or had drunk too much alcohol. Paul was furious with Karla, but rather than abandoning the idea, Paul and Karla analysed what went wrong. They concluded that they needed a stronger sedative cocktail and direct access when the rest of the family was asleep. So December the 23rd, 1990, they put their plan into action. So this is Tammy not long before she died. So this is her at age 15. So yeah, she's just a young 15-year-old girl who had all of her life to live, and those two bastards took it away from her, all because of him being an absolute fucking pervert. So yeah, that's Karla's sister Tammy. During a family Christmas gathering, Karla's parents said that Tammy was allowed 2 glasses of eggnog to drink with the family. While Karla was doing the drinks, she spoiled Tammy's drink with Valium, which she had stolen from the work at the vets. Once Karla's parents and Laurie had gone to bed, Tammy was taken to the basement. Karla approached her from behind and placed a salt rag full of the general anaesthetic halothane. Halothane is normally an inhaled general anaesthetic used to start and maintain general anaesthesia during surgery, and it is administered via a vaporizer, which Karla, from working as a vet's assistant, would have known this. But instead, by using it on a rag, like the baddies do on the films when they use chloroform on someone, it burned a big burn on Tammy's cheek. This didn't bother or stop Paul. He began to rape the unconscious Tammy, while Karla recorded the whole incident. At one point, he even made Karla perform sex acts on her passed-out sister while he watched them recorded. So he even got Karla to perform sex acts on her own sister while she was passed out unconscious. As the assault took place, a dangerous combination of alcohol, heavy oral sedatives, and inhaled halothane severely depressed Tammy's central nervous system and breathing. Deprived of normal protective airway reflexes, Tammy began to vomit while lying flat on her back and inhaled the gastric contents into her lung. Realising Tammy had stopped breathing and turned blue, Bernardo and Karla panicked. Bernardo fled the house to avoid being discovered at the scene. Karla quickly attempted to clean up the bedroom, hiding the halothane rags, syringes and videotapes before running downstairs to wake her parents. She claims she had just gone to the bedroom to check on Tammy and found her unresponsive. What they did, because she passed out and everything, what they'd done, they actually said, "We've got to get her out of here quick." So they actually got her and they carried her into the bedroom. And what they said was the burn on her cheek was from them taking her off the bed, and her face caught the carpet, and did like a carpet burn. But there is a picture of her face with the burn on it, and I'm not going to show it. It is out there if you want to look at it. And it doesn't look like a carpet burn at all. We've all had carpet burns. I'm not going to claim where we get the carpet burns from, but we've all had carpet burns. And that looks nothing like a carpet burn at all. But the police and everyone believed them. Emergency responders were called to the home, but resuscitation efforts failed. Tammy was rushed to the hospital where she was pronounced dead on Christmas Day, December the 25th, 1990. What? That's going to ruin your Christmas for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, you will never be able to have a happy Christmas again after that. At the time, authorities and the local coroner had no knowledge of the sedatives, the halothane, or the sexual assault. Tammy's death was officially ruled an accidental choking secondary to alcohol consumption. It was treated as a devastating holiday tragedy for the Homolka family. At the funeral, Paul was seen staring at the open casket, stroking Tammy's hair, while Karla walked around chatting to guests, notably not looking upset. Karla even went and put this photo in the casket when they laid her to rest. Now, this is fucking sick, this is. So, they put this photo, because it was an open casket, and Paul was seen stroking her hair, and before they actually closed the casket so they could bury her, there's Tammy. They put that photo in of them pair behind, smiling, and Paul waving to him. I mean, how fucking sick and corrupt is that? Absolute fucking horrible. Horrible. They was the ones that killed her. Then in the coffin, they put that photo. Fucking hell. Absolutely disgusting. Absolute pieces of shit. These are. Absolute pieces of shit. Fucking hell. A few weeks after Tammy's funeral, Paul and Karla would record themselves on a video labelled The Fireside Chat, where the couple would repeatedly sneak into Tammy's room and have sex on their bed. Karla would even wear Tammy's clothes, and Paul would call her Tammy. Karla even said she enjoyed watching Paul rape her sister. This tape would be one of the many tapes that would end up being the downfall of both of these sick, twisted fuckers. Now, after Tammy's death, Paul and Karla had gotten engaged, which people found odd. This happening so close to the death of her sister and the grieving period of her family, but that's how these two fuckers operate. They don't care about nothing, anybody. Paul had gotten a taste of a young woman, and now he wanted more. Karla befriended a 16-year-old girl known as Jane Doe. They would have her come to their house and hang out and watch TV, all at the disapproval of her parents, but Jane Doe kept hanging around with the pair, unknown to her that she was being groomed to be the next victim. One night, Karla puts the same plan in action. In the family basement, she gave the Jane Doe a drink spiked with Valium and triazolam and temazepam. These strong prescription sedatives were crushed and dissolved into the victim's alcoholic drink to cause severe drowsiness, memory loss, and loss of motor coordination. Karla then lay her on the bed and called Paul in and said, "Here you are, darling. Here's your wedding present." And Paul raped out the past unconscious victim. Surprisingly, Paul and Karla let Jane Doe survive. The next morning she woke up sore and with a huge hangover and in pain. Karla told her, "It's your first time you've ever been drunk, so it's just a bad hangover," and you took her home. Jane Doe may have survived that night, but after it was revealed what happened to all the other people, she suffered severe psychological trauma and drug-induced memory loss, only learning that what happened to all the other victims, she was the one that should have been. So she was the one that got away. And because she was the one that got away, that affected her. Paul's hunger for young girls was now at a monster level, and Karla wanted to keep him happy. So in 1991, Paul was cruising the streets when he approached 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey. Here is a picture of Leslie. And here she is. There's Leslie there. As you can see, it's a normal 15-year-old girl, happy. Got long blonde hair. She's got her braces in, which will come into play in a minute. And yes, it just looks a happy 15-year-old girl with a whole life to live. 14-year-old girl. So that's Leslie Mahaffey. Leslie that day had been at the funeral of one of her friends who had died in a car crash. After the funeral, she and some of her friends went to the woods to drink and grieve. Her parents told her she had to be back by a certain time, but Leslie decided to stay have a few more drinks. When she got home, she found out she had been locked out of the house. And this is when Paul, being the opportunistic bastard he ever was, he would pounce. Seeing Leslie late at night alone, he pulled over and offered her a cigarette. When she accepted, Paul then overpowered Leslie at knife point, forced her into his vehicle and drove her to the St. Catherine's home where he shared with Karla. See, this time, they brought a house during this time. Once inside the residence, Bernardo and Karla held Leslie captive in an upstairs bedroom for over 24 hours. They repeatedly forced her to consume prescription sedatives and alcohol. Throughout her captivity, Leslie was subjected to brutal, physical, psychological and sexual abuse. Bernardo documented these horrific acts using a handheld video camera, with Karla actively participating, holding the camera and helping restrain Leslie. She also joined in on the sex acts as well. On June 16, 1991, fearing that letting Leslie go would expose their identities, Bernardo murdered Leslie by strangulation using an electrical cord. To dispose of her body, Bernardo took her remains to the basement where he dismembered her body using a circular saw. Bernardo placed her remains into large plastic construction barrels, filled them with wet concrete and allowed them to set. On June the 29th, so you're talking 13 days after, fishermen discovered the concrete blocks containing Leslie's remains submerged in Lake Gibson near St. Catherine's. This day, June the 29th, 1901, was also the exact same day Paul and Karla got married, and friends and guests at the wedding even said at night time they watched this unfold on the news, with Paul and Karla not once looking scared or shocked. Police dental records confirmed the remains belonged to Leslie Mahaffey, initiating a massive homicide investigation that eventually intersected with the Kirsten French murder and the Scarborough Rapist Task Force. So, what these dickheads they realised was the lake that they threw him in, when he becomes to a certain time of the year, it drops by about 5 foot. So they thought it was being clever, putting the body parts in concrete and throwing them into the lake. They didn't realise that the lake actually sank. So, and that was how they got caught. On the documentary, the guy who found the body actually recalls how he found him and what he saw, and he can tell it's had an impact on him. He seriously does look a little fucked up. It's proper mess of him, you can tell. In April 1992, Paul would strike again. 15-year-old Christine French was abducted, tortured and murdered by Paul, Bernardo and Karla, a crime that horrified the public and triggered an unprecedented police manhunt across southern Ontario. Kristen, a high school student and cheerleader, was walking home from Holy Cross Catholic Secondary School in St Catharines. In a church parking lot just blocks from her home, Bernardo and Karla pulled up in their Nissan 300ZX. Karla approached Kristen, asking for directions to a local mall. As Kristen pointed to a map, Bernardo ambushed her from behind, forced her into the back of the car at knife point and threw a jacket over her head. So this is Kristen. This is Kristen. There she pops up now. There she is. Again, another, beautiful 15-year-old girl. A big, massive smile. She's got a dark hair with a bit of like a flick at the top, and it's permed, and she looks happy as Larry. Happy as Larry, like a 15-year-old girl should be. And these bastards took it away from her. Unlike Leslie Mahaffey, who was held for 24 hours, Kristen was kept captive in their St Catharines home 15 days. Throughout her captivity, Kristen demonstrated extraordinary courage. Videotapes recovered later showed her repeatedly defying Bernardo, refusing to call him master and maintaining her personal dignity despite enduring unspeakable psychological, physical and sexual abuse. Karla actively participated in the torture, helping restrain Kristen, administering the sedatives, shaving her hair and operating the video camera while Bernardo recorded the abuse. Fearing that keeping Kristen any longer would lead to discovery, as police checkpoints and public search parties flooded St Catharines, Bernardo murdered Kristen by strangulation using an electrical cord. They stripped her body, drove her to a wooded ditch in Burlington near Highway 407 and dumped her remains. On April the 30th, 1992, search teams discovered Kristen's body. Her death sparked immense national grief and intensified the pressure of law enforcement to catch the killers. Kristen's school community started the Green Ribbon campaign in a memory symbolising hope and child safety across Canada. So he's killed 3 people now. Karla has helped him kill 3 people. No matter what happens here, she's not an innocent bystander in this. She is a full-blown participant. She is administering the drugs. She's getting the drugs from the vets. She is joining in on the attacks. And this is all being recorded, so she cannot deny it. But over time, Paul's perverse sexual needs and sexual nature started turning into violence. After the murder of Kristen French on April 30th, 1992, a cascade of events led directly to the breakdown of Paul, Bernardo and Karla Homolka's relationship, their eventual arrests and the unravelling of their crimes. Following Kristen's murder, the dynamic inside the house shifted dramatically. Bernardo became increasingly paranoid, irritable and physically abusive towards Karla. One occasion, Paul went to work away for a few days. While he was there, he met a woman and had sex with her the whole time he was there. He even brought her back to his and Karla's home and made Karla pretend to be his sister while she stayed the night. But the woman soon left when, while during sex, Paul called Karla into the bedroom to join him. The woman thought this was very odd and weird and immediately left. Paul blamed Karla and beat her while having sex with her. Bernardo's violence and domination continued to escalate by the day, subjecting Karla to severe beatings, using flashlight weapons and heavy objects. During one violent argument in late 1992, Bernardo struck Karla repeatedly across the face with a flashlight, leaving her severely bruised and swollen. This is a picture from the beating and the attack. So, end of the day, you don't eat a woman. No matter what happens, you never lay your hands on a woman. But Paul is not a man. And as you can see by that photo, her eyes are just completely black. Completely black. It's a black and white photo, but you can still see how heavily black her eyes are. So, there's some people say Karma's a bitch, but we'll see. The final beating in January 1993 was delivered by Bernardo. He'd left Homolka with facial fractures, severe black eyes and extensive bodily bruising. Karla fled to St Catherine's house in the parents' house. Fearing for her life, her family took her to the hospital where doctors documented their extensive injuries. She formally left Paul and hired legal counsel immediately. While Karla was recovering, a parallel long overdue development occurred in Toronto. For over two years, a DNA sample taken from Bernardo, which was voluntary, remember, in the late 1990s during the Scarborough rapist investigation, had sat unprocessed on a shelf due to administrative backlogs at the Centre for Forensic Sciences. If I remember right, the one podcast actually turned around and said, because DNA was obviously like in its infancy, in that area in Canada, there was only one person that could do the DNA samples and the blood stuff. So that's the whole reason why it took so long. In early February 1993, forensic analysts finally processed the sample. The DNA matched the biological evidence left at the scenes of multiple unsolved Scarborough rapes. On February 17, 1993, police raided the Bernardo Homolka residence in St. Catharines and arrested Paul Bernardo. At the time of his arrest, he was charged solely as a Scarborough rapist. Police had not yet formally linked him to the missing and murdered schoolgirls Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. Following Bernardo's arrest, Karla hired high-profile criminal defence attorney George Walker. Recognising that the police were connecting Bernardo to the disappearances of Mahaffey and French, Walker positioned Homolka as a terrified, abused victim who had been held hostage and forced to participate under duress. Starting in late February 1993, Karla underwent extensive police interviews. She provided authorities with a carefully constructed narrative. She admitted to being present during the abductions and assaults of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. She claimed Bernardo was the sole mastermind and killer, asserting that she acted entirely under the threat of death. She admitted key facts, including her active role in sourcing drugs, her enthusiastic participation in the assaults, and the truth about her sister Tammy's death, while she still maintained was an accidental choking on vomit caused by alcohol. Crown prosecutors faced immense public and political pressure to solve the murders of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French, believing they had no direct physical evidence linked Bernardo to the murders, and completely unaware that the videotapes of the crimes existed. Prosecutors concluded that Homolka's eyewitness testimony was essential to convict Bernardo of first-degree murder. On May 14, 1993, prosecutors signed a formal plea agreement with Homolka. This was what was known as a big, massive balls-up by the police force. They was that desperate to close the case and put someone in jail. They did something really, really bad. Karla agreed to plead guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter in the deaths of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. She agreed to provide full, truthful testimony against Paul Bernardo in court and be the main witness. In exchange, the Crown agreed to a fixed sentence of 12 years in prison. On July 6, 1993, a judge formally accepted the plea agreement and sentenced Karla to 12 years. The Canadian public and media quickly dubbed the agreement the deal with the devil. Prior to Bernardo's arrest, he had hidden 6 8mm videotapes documenting the abductions, druggings, sexual assaults and torture of Tammy Homolka, Jane Doe, Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French inside the ceiling light fixture of his home's upstairs bathroom. In May 1993, Bernardo told his original defence counsel, Ken Murray, about the hidden tapes. He drew a map and gave it to Murray, showing him exactly where the tapes were hiding. Murray visited the home and retrieved the tapes from the ceiling fixture. Murray held on to these tapes in a bank safety deposit box for 17 months without informing the court or police, citing solicitor-client privilege. In September 1994, Murray transferred the tapes to Bernardo's new lead trial lawyer, John Rosen, who immediately turned them over to the proceeding judge. When police and prosecutors watched the footage, Homolka's narrative fell apart completely. The tapes showed her to be a calm, active and willing participant in the drugging, torture and degradation of the victims. They also caught her and Bernardo discussing the administration of halothane to Tammy, proving Tammy's death was a deliberate drugging and assault rather than an accident. I'm sure in the one podcast or in one of the documentaries they said they actually ended up exhuming Tammy's body. And when they exhumed the body, they actually still found the drug in her system. It was still, I think it was in her liver or her kidneys. It was in one of them. I don't understand how that works. I'm not even going to look into it, but I remember him saying that and I was just like, wow, that's fucked up. Prosecutors were horrified by the revelation on the videotapes and sought ways to void Karla's plea deal and charge her with first-degree murder. However, under Canadian constitutional law and protections against double jeopardy, because Karla had already been formally convicted, sentenced and begun serving a 12-year sentence for manslaughter, a plea deal could not legally be revoked, even though it was clear she had committed perjury during her initial interviews. In the documentary, you see her walk around the house and you see her. She's been reading the book, The Battered Woman Syndrome by Lenore E.A. Walker, and basically she was playing it out word for word. She walks around the house with like the police officers and she's like, "Oh, that's my sister wants that shirt. Can I take it?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Oh, where's my furniture? Where's all my furniture gone?" It is safe, isn't it? She's not even bothered. She's just still looking at silly things. But they said, like, when they found this book, The Battered Woman Syndrome, then they're like, "Oh, she's playing this card to the T." And she was. In the summer of 1995, Paul Bernardo stood trial for first-degree murders of Leslie Mahaffey, Kristen French, alongside dozens of charges related to kidnapping, rape and dismemberment. Karla took the witness stand for 12 days as the Crown's primary witness. Bernardo's defence team aggressively cross-examined her, using the videotapes to expose her lies and show her active role in the crimes. Bernardo testified in his own defence, claiming that Karla was the dominant personality, that she had killed Tammy out of sheer jealousy and wanted her out of the way. He also claimed she killed Kristen French, hitting her with a mallet multiple times over the head, and that he was merely a passive bystander. A line of defence the jury rejected immediately. On September the 1st, 1995, the jury found Paul Bernardo guilty on all counts, including 2 counts of first-degree murder. On November the 3rd, 1995, Bernardo was designated a dangerous offender, subjecting him to an indefinite sentence with no maximum limit. He was remanded to a maximum security prison. Currently, he's in La Macaza institution in Quebec. His subsequent parole applications have been repeatedly denied. Karla served a full 12-year sentence at the Juliet Institution for Women in Quebec. She was released from custody on July the 4th, 2005, having completed her sentence in full without early parole. This is what they look like today. So this is Paul Bernardo. Apparently, someone mentioned that they reckon he's now having a gay affair with the guy, Luigi Maglione. Is it Maglione or Maglione? The guy who shot that elf worker and then disappeared and then he got caught in McDonald's. Paul denies it, but apparently the people in the jail turned around and went saying, no, it's true. He's turned gay and he's having sex with him now. And this is Karla. So, again, like I say, it's the eyes. There is nothing in those eyes at all. They are so dark, those eyes are. And that's what she looks like now. So, it's a lot different from when they was young and together and looked like this. Long step away from this picture. Yeah. So, do I look like I'm bothered? No. Fuck them, they deserve the worst of the worst, to be honest. Absolute pieces of shit. So, Bernardo was designated a dangerous offender, subjecting him to an indefinite sentence in a maximum security setting with virtually no chance of ever being released. Due to the extreme notoriety of his crimes and the threat of violence from other inmates, Bernardo spent the vast majority of his incarceration in protective custody, locked in his cell for up to 23 hours a day to prevent targeted attacks. He has undergone continuous psychological evaluations. Forensic psychiatrists constantly maintain that he remains a high-risk, untreatable sexual sadist and psychopath who presents an ongoing danger to the public. Excuse me. He even tested 35 out of 40 on the psychotherapy chart, whereas Karla took the same psychotherapy chart and scored 5 out of 40. When Karla was released after serving her 12 years, the Ontario government attempted to impose strict peace bond restrictions on her, including curfews, reporting to police and providing blood samples. Karla challenged these restrictions in court, and most were ultimately lifted or allowed to expire, as she had served a full sentence. She even asked in court if she could change her name, but this was refused. She moved to Guadeloupe and married Thierry Bordelais, the brother of a former defence lawyer's investigator. The couple went on to have 3 children together. By 2014, Karla and her family returned to Canada, settling in Chateauguay, Quebec, a suburb south of Montreal. In May 2017, Canadian media revealed that Karla had been occasionally volunteering at a children's private Seventh-day Adventist elementary school in Montreal, including supervising children on field trips and bringing a dog into classrooms. The revelation sparked widespread fury amongst parents and general public, many of whom were unaware of her identity. School administration subsequently banned her from volunteering on school grounds. Following the 2017 school controversy, Homolka withdrew completely from public view. She does the odd interview, very, very rarely. She'll do the odd interview. Obviously, she probably needs a bit of money. She'll do one, but she is, people say she has literally become a ghost. So there is, I think someone mentioned that there's Facebook pages where like they go out like trying to find her all the while so they can keep a tab on her. But I'm not sure if that's true or what happens. But yeah, that's Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka. So they went from this is one of the first photos they had when they was together. So as you can see, Karla, she's a lot bigger. She's a lot bigger there. She's not fat, but she's bigger than what she was. She's got brown hair. It's like a curl sort of bouffant sort of thing. And after a while, Paul changed that into this. Paul changed that into that. So let's get the photo up of him now. And they went from that to that. There's a big difference. You can see Karla's a lot thinner. Her hair's blonde. She's got a fringe and her hair's spiky back a little bit. So, yeah, all because she wanted to please a boyfriend stroke husband, Paul. Crazy. Absolute crazy story. And that's it for the Ken and Barbie KIllers. I don't really know what to say about that. When I was listening to the podcast, there wasn't a nice list. The podcast was good, don't wrong. It was very well done. But it just wasn't a nice listen. It really wasn't a nice listen. Because there's nothing good in it. There really isn't. She got away with it. I mean, she really did get away with it. She literally got away with murder. Paul actually turned around and said that she was the one that killed Kristen with a mallet. Whether she did or not, who knows? We'll never know. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't both of them doing it, to be honest. I can imagine both of them, him strangling her and she whacking her over the head. I really could see that. But when they said, if you watch the documentary in court, she says she formed a bond with Kristen and she refused to hurt her. She gave her a teddy bear so she could hold, but she said she was too old for teddy bears, but she kept it on the bed anyway. She said she used to go down and used to have makeup parties and do girly things while Paul was away. I don't believe that. I really don't believe that at all. But if she's doing that, she's a Jekyll and Hyde. She really is a Jekyll and Hyde character because that's just seriously fucked up. But yeah, that's today's episode of the Ken and Barbie KIllers. So let me know what you think in the comments below. In the comments, let me know, do you think them sick fuckers and to be honest, they should have had the death penalty. They really should have had the death penalty. I don't know why they didn't get the death penalty. They should have, because it's wrong what them doing. It really, really is. So let me in the comments, let me know what you think of these two sick bastards. Do they rival Fred and Rose West and Ian Brady and Moira Hindley? I don't know. Them at different levels. If you don't know who Ian Brady and Moira Hindley are, they was the ones who did the Moors murders, I definitely will not be doing an episode on that. And Fred and Rose West are obviously Fred and Rose West, and they lived in Cromwell Street and killed people. And I won't be doing an episode on them neither because, one, it'd be pointless because I could not do that episode justice. The Fred and Rose West ones, the episodes I've listened to on that, them like 2 and 3 parters. And I don't even then, there's not enough detail done because the stuff missed out on both of them that like they go into. So that could be like a 6, 7, 8 episode podcast on them too. And Moira Hindley and Ian Brady. I remember the one, so I wasn't too sure what the Moors murders was. I remember people saying, oh, the Moors murders, there was sick bastards and this and that. And I was like, oh, what's that? And there's a documentary come on Channel 4. I just had my oldest daughter, Jordan. So you'd be talking with Jordan's 26, sorry. Jordan's 26. So Jordan had just been born. I mean, she was literally weeks old. And I remember being round my daughter's mum's house. And obviously we was together at the time. And he come on. And I watched literally 5 minutes of that documentary. And I was in tears. I literally broke down in tears. And it was 5 minutes into the documentary. I was like, oh my God, tennis off quick. And that played on my mind for a while, that did. It really did. It was, like I said, if you don't know what they am, I am not going to explain what it is. I am not going to talk about what it is. You can find out that yourself. And just make sure you think about what you're going into, because that is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. That bastard's dead now. Ian Brady, he's fucking dead. But I think Maureen is still alive. There was rumours apparently she and Rose West had like a lesbian affair. I don't know how true it was. I'm not too sure, but fuck, you know. Obviously, Fred West hung himself when he got caught. He found out that Rose West basically blamed him for everything, and he said he couldn't handle it, and he hung himself. That's another pair. That you listen to Fred and Rose West and anything up and down Cromwell Street, get ready, because that is an hard listen. That is a very hard listen. It's like I said, some of that I definitely will not be doing, and no chance. So that's it for today's episode. Let's talk about what we're going into today. Interesting fact. Somewhat, not many people listen to my podcast. I know that, and I accept it. Not many people listen to it. And I'm on YouTube, and there's the videos I'm on YouTube now. Not all of the episodes. I've only started putting like the recent ones on. But someone has actually on Spotify listened to my 80s show, where I did like 80s films that you love but no one else did. You know, films like No Retreat, No Surrender, They Live, you know, films like that sort of thing. Someone reported it to Spotify because I played 4 seconds of Cry Little Sister from the Lost Boys, and I got reported, and the episode ended up being took down. Now, I'm nobody. I'm not a big wig. I'm a one-man show. I'm me. That's me. Me. I've got a laptop here. I've got a PC in there that I do my editing on in the conservatory, but I can't go in the conservatory because it's literally like a sauna. I'm surprised that computer ain't melted, to be honest. It's that hot in there. And that's it. And somebody has found it a bit awkward that, and they don't like it, and they reported my episode. What a sad wanker to do that. If I was like making money and all that, fair enough, then fair enough. I understand it. I don't make a penny. I don't even get any listeners. So that was a strange one. Really, really was a strange one. When that popped up in my email, and I was just like, what the fuck? Seriously? I told the missus about it, and like friends at work and stuff, and it's just like, that's bad. I was like, tell me about it. But it is what it is. It is what it is. When we're watching, the minute we're watching The Crow Girl season 2. If you've not watched The Crow Girl, season 2 follows straight up from season 1, so you do need to watch season 1. But fucking hell, it's a good program. That is a really, really good show. Really do enjoy that. I remember watching the first season on Paramount, and I think we watched that in like 2 days, me and the missus. I was like, I really enjoyed that. It's based on I don't realise it was based on a book, but it's based on a book, and it is really, really good. It's about the first season is about a police officer. She's kind of having not marital problems, but she lives for the job, whereas her husband ends up doing a lot of the parenting, basically. And she's got a partner, but you find out her partner does dodgy dealings, and she has to grass him up, basically. And there's like an underground fight club going on, and people and bodies start appearing, foreigners, and she has to try and blend them together and find out what's going on. But there's other things going on in the background, and there's a psychiatrist, and you find out that she's trying to help this girl who was being abused by her dad in a paedophile ring, and she's trying to help that girl, and it kind of like all sort of like ties in, like very, very loosely. And I'm not going to give the game away, but there's some twists and turns in it, and yeah, it all comes together at the end. And we've just started watching season 2. I think we've got 2 episodes left, and the first episode you're like going, what the fuck is going on here? we actually went back and watched the last episode of the season 1 just to refresh our memory, sort of thing. Because like, what is going on here? This is fucking mental. But as soon as you do that, he clicks back in what was going on and everything makes sense. But yeah, The Crow Girl, very, very good. Really do recommend it. Highly recommend that. Really do. What else have I done? I found a couple of good podcasts. I found there was one called True Crime Besties. They was good. I think them Australian. I did find, get me cellular device, what was the other one? Coffee Cup. Is it Coffee Cup? Coffee and Crime. Let me, where's it called? Just, so you got Crime and Coffee Couple. It's a true crime podcast. They're good. The husband and wife. They're really good as well. Got a big, massive back catalogue. And also, like I said before, the one I listened to today, I'd like to get on this one. There was a crime, conspiracy, cults and murders. That's good as well. That's got another lot of big catalogue. So be listening to them, of course, along with Such a Witch and The Girlfriends Forever and Whatcast. So yeah, listen to a lot of podcasts at work today instead of going through the usual ones. I tried to broaden my horizon because I get a lot of podcasts now adding me on Instagram. So of course I'll look them up and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll add them up, I'll check them out. And there's some good ones out there, but obviously they don't get pushed. The algorithm on Spotify does not push them. So, you really do have to hunt for some of these podcasts. And there is some really, like I said, the coffee and murder, was it I said it was? What did I say it was called? I got to say it properly because it's only right that I say it properly. The Crime and Coffee Couple, they're really good. Really, really good. True Crime Besties, they're really good as well. And the Crime and Conspiracy, Cults and Murders, that was very, very good. Really did. Crime Curious, that was another good podcast as well. Obviously all true crime, because this month I'm doing true crime. Next month I might do movies and strange occurrences. And obviously in October I'm going to do a full horror and paranormal. That's what I'm trying to work around anyway. Hopefully I can get Rebecca to come on then, and I can get Brad to come on. But I do have an interview booked in for Thursday, and I am really looking forward to this. I really, really am. I got approached last week by someone, and I said, would we be interested in I could talk to them on the podcast? I was like, yeah, definitely. So Thursday I will be interviewing, if I can find them here on the, where have all these people come from? Don't know. I've got it out saying I've sent loads of messages to people on here. Don't know. Let's come. It's Casey McHilly or Michill, and hopefully she says she can only do it to 6 o'clock on Thursday, and which is 11 o'clock over here. So KG Michelli is her name. So hopefully I can sort that out and the interview will go ahead. It'll be a late one for me, but it doesn't matter anyway, as long as she can do it. She's a paranormal. Has had a lot of paranormal experiences. She's wrote a book about her experiences, and she has also now started making films about her experiences. So she's a very, very busy woman. I think she's got 11 books out about paranormal and things that she's experienced. So she's very, very, very well known. She's got a name. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. She's American as well, which is going to be interesting because obviously me being from the UK. And I said to her, at the end, is it okay if I fire some quick fire rounds out, questions out? And they're going to be like funny ones and sort of thing, like, who would win in a fight, Freddy or Art the Terrifier? Who would, what's the best food, Mackey's or Burger King? Would Bigfoot beat up Mothman? Just stuff like that. Just, have a bit of a laugh. Because I don't want it, if I do an interview with someone, I don't want an interview to be like intrusive or personal or anything like that. I just want, I want it to be as if I'm sitting down in a pub and just having a chat. So, that's the way I like to do. But there's interviewers out there. You got your Liam Tufts, brilliant interviewer. James English, brilliant interviewer. I listen to their podcast, and they interviewed Andrew Gold, another one, really, really good. I don't want to be like that. I'd rather just sit down and just have a laugh and just have some banter, just back and forth with each other. So I really am looking forward to that interview, and hopefully that can come away. I've just tried sending the invites because I didn't know how to do it. So I actually messaged the Such a Witch girls. I said, how do you invite these people? So I've never done it before. And I said, just send the link. Just download the app and send the link. So I just tried it with the missus, and yeah, it was pretty simple, really. It was nothing bad. So I'm like, yep, I can get that done. So Thursday, hopefully, get that recorded, and then I can get it put on roughly Friday or Saturday or something, and get that put on. And really, I'm looking forward to that. Really, I'm looking forward. Hopefully, you can open the door to more interviews. As I've said before, if anybody wants to come on the show, please just message me and you can come on the show. We can have a talk, we can have a laugh, we can do an episode, we can do reactions if you want about something, we can read stupid stories. I don't mind at all. If you want to come on and just be like a co-host and I can lead the show and you can just jump in. I don't mind at all. If anybody wants to come on and do a collaboration on an episode, please message me. I don't mind. I would love to do a collaboration with someone. If you do want to do that, let's talk about pods@gmail.com or on Instagram, let's_talk_about_pods. Or just leave a comment on the bottom of the video and I'll message you and we can have a chat. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Really, that's the madness of it all. Being reported for having 4 seconds of a song. I don't get that. And then I'm watching a very good TV program and I've got the interview coming up next week. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing next week yet. I haven't even thought about it. This research has took a long time to get this research all done because there's a lot of research to do because you've got to try and tie it all in. And hopefully I've did it justice. You know, like I said, the big wigs, your Red Handeds and your Roy Could Murder podcast and your Bro Hoyos have done this one. So obviously I ain't nowhere near that level at all. You know, they're Premier League. I even grassroots Sunday morning football. You know, I'm like just kicking a ball over a park level. So, but yeah, that's the Ken and Barbie KIllers, and I haven't got a Sunday roast this week. It's late, and I just want to get this over and done with, to be honest. So I want to get to bed. I've got to be up at 5 in the morning for work, so I want to be up at 4. Yeah, that is what it is. So I'll see you next week. Have a good one. And like I said, leave a message in the comments to let me know what you think. Bye-bye.